allows illegal immigrants to get jobs as day laborers. In fact, their largest facility is in PG County. And many people I know in PG County would love to be able to stand on a corner and have a truck drive by and give them a job for a day for $50. You know, they don't have the opportunity to do that. So, you know, since Thomas Perez has been in the Department of Justice, not only is he striking down voter ID laws, but he's also filed suit against Arizona, Alabama, and Georgia for enforcing existing legal immigration law. My friend Tony O'Donnell can probably speak on this a little bit better than me. Having said that, I would say that it was a terrible appointment. You should not put somebody in charge of an organization helping illegal immigrants take American jobs in charge of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice. What I want to say is that, you know, I'm paying too much for gas at the pump, and we all are, and we're all paying too much for heating oil, and we're all paying too much for a lot of things. I had initially agreed with the let's try everything approach of the Obama administration until I realized it was just favors to friends. What I am absolutely against in our quest to reduce the cost of our energy is fracking, by far. I'm sorry. I know that it's important. I know it raises a lot of money. What it does to the people who live around those areas and the fact that it creates earthquakes, we should have more respect for the earth than that. We can find ways of getting the energy that we need without destroying the planet. Thank you. If you find anything in politics that's tens of thousands of pages, especially if it involves money, then that's a lot of favors being given out. You know, we need transparency in our tax system. I've talked to several people on the national Republican level, including Herman Cain, about tax policy. I looked at his 999 plan. There's a lot to like about it. I am absolutely for transparency. They wouldn't be able to hide their favor giving if everybody knew what people had to pay. The fact that there are 30 multinational corporations that paid zero taxes. I mean, look, if I can get a hold of their accountant, I'd be paying zero too, and so would you all. But the fact is, we don't have that type of resources. We go to H&R Block, and we get screwed. Sorry, H&R Block. So, having said that, I'm absolutely for transparency. It doesn't matter what the iteration is. What matters is that we all can hold people to account, not just our government. As a combat veteran of Operation Desert Storm, I have to say that the fact that we don't have combat veterans, serving Congress to the extent that we used to have, is a big part of this problem because we get into wars of choice now. We have Iran surrounded. We, actively participate in destabilizing countries over there. There's no excuse for Iran to have, a nuclear weapon. They absolutely threaten Israel, and we should have Israel's back 100%. Having said that, we can also have Israel's back by staying out of the business of other countries. Because if we weren't so insistent on enforcing our opinions on how government should act abroad, then we would not necessarily be as much of a threat. And then we could protect Israel by being less aggressive ourselves. Thank you. Well, what I'm going to do is actually attempt to answer the question, not turn it into healthcare. I mean, when you got a guy who's been in office 26 years and Steny Hoyer's been in office 31 years, they're not really going to talk about term limits. So let's put the facts straight. First off, our government is corrupt not because of any moral failings, but because the people who have access to our elected officials are the ones with the most money. And if you and I had access to our elected officials in the same way, in the same capacity that they do, then things would be different. We get the government that we elect, and when we consistently, repeatedly, put the same people over and over and over, and then ask them to be agents of change. I mean, look, we all work in regular jobs. When was the last time a person in your company worked there 26 years and was a change agent? So, I mean, look, the bottom line is we should absolutely have term limits. Also, we need to increase the voters' influence on our elected officials, and that is, again, the We Vote initiative. If we do not, money will always be more important than our vote. I want to talk to everyone for a minute about the path that you take when you vote for a president, like I voted for President Obama, and then you oppose his policies, like I am now. Because my story is instructive. We need to change minds to win. The reason that I'm now a Republican is because I actually read, legislation and tried to put it in the marketplace. And I'm specifically talking about Obamacare. When I realized that it gives the federal government ownership over our money, that's what made me become a Republican. Every Republican in Congress voted against it, and that let me know clearly who was on the side of the American people. But having said that, as a black person, it was very difficult for me to change my mind and oppose the first black president. I'm happy I did, but you need about 10,000 to 20,000 more just like me to win this election in the 5th District. And there's only one person that can lead them there, and it's a person that's already traveled down that road. People vote for Steny Hoyer because there's a D in his name. They don't know him, especially in PG County. I've asked. I've gone to the barbershops and the beauty salons, and I've mentioned Steny Hoyer's name, and for the most part, they just ask me if I want a haircut. Obviously, looking at me, I don't need one. Having said that, my primary opponent, Tony O'Donnell, has no shot at winning in PG County, and this is where the election is decided. I come back to one very simple fact. Maryland's a blue state, and the areas that are blue are where people are suffering the most. If you've had 26 years and you haven't moved a meter, and you haven't convinced people who are suffering that you have a better way, you're not going to do it in 6 months. And it's just the truth. Nothing against him. I'm sure he's a fine man. Having said that, when you vote in Southern Maryland to elect someone to win in PG County, then, since that's where the election is decided, always, then you want someone who can not only share your values in terms of government and what government should do and shouldn't do, but you also want someone who can talk to people as a neighbor. I don't know if anybody saw when Tony's election was launched, but there were many people in his office in Prince Frederick. Not one was from PG County. And the fact that he supported Thomas Perez when there's so many African Americans that, again, would love to be able to stand on a corner and get $50 working for a day. I really don't see anything about the man that would make somebody in PG County vote against the re-election of the first black president of the United States. This is the most significant election in our lifetime. Make your vote to win, not just to prove a point, because you won't prove a point when you lose. My name is Glenn Morton, and I approve this message.